John's got a wealth of experience over 40 years in the steel sector, leading steelmaking, downstream utilities. He's been a senior executive at all the names of the steel industry. So there's British Steel, Chorus, Tata, Liberty. I may have missed one or two there, so apologies of that. But he's also been working closely with the government, chair of the UK Steel Trade, and the first chair of actually the UK Metals Council. So he's currently also involved in Transfire, which is one of the networks really, which is around trying to make a difference and move things forward. So we'll be hearing a little bit about that. And I mean, he was actually presented with the Bessemer Gold Medal by the IMechE. Not IMechE, the Materials Institute. For minerals and mining, for his outstanding services to the steel industry. So really glad to have you finishing up this afternoon. Plenty of time, John. But people will be rushing. I see people wafting. It's obviously getting warm now. It's heating up in here.
Kind of left me. Well, up 40 years in the industry, and obviously I started when I was 5. A couple of things before I start, I think. Firstly, I've submitted my thoughts to paper rather than the excellent presentations of the way they've been delivered before me. Two things that helps. It helps me keep my thoughts in order and stops me rambling. Secondly, hopefully it'll get you to lunch on time. The second thing, it's good that I'm sort of finishing the plenary session today, because we started with Sarah Mumby talking about the government's she talked about 3 aims or 3 ways she has of thinking about this. And her first point was government solving the country's problems, maybe words you don't associate with government currently at the moment, but ones I agree with. And the issue is that we've heard a lot about the fantastic work that's going on in the sector around materials at the moment, but when do they start to make a big difference to society, to the economy, to the environment? Is when they get adopted by companies, when government properly funds them, when they actually scale up significantly. And a lot about what I'm going to talk about today is trying to address that, or trying to pose that question in a different way, maybe. The foundation industries. David says, I'll tell you a bit about the foundation industries. I suspect you already know about what the foundation industries are about. They provide all the materials necessary for a society and economy to exist and grow. So the question is, why has its security and development been neglected in the UK, particularly in the UK? So we cannot live without products from the foundation industries, whether it's glass in construction, fibre optics, screen for phones, TVs, computers, chemicals in cosmetics, cleaning products, pharmaceuticals, fertilizers, metals, railways, buildings, tools, containers, and then paper. Oh, that hasn't jumped ahead. Paper in sort of packaging, hygiene products, cement for buildings, road structures, ceramics in insulators, domestic goods, refractories, etc. So we can't live without these products. But they are not getting the focus I believe they need to have beyond the fantastic work that's been done around research and development and innovation. There is, in fact, I believe, a very strong case for investing in the foundation industries. It comes from all investment cases need constant income, but there is regular and increasing public spending on infrastructure. As we've been hearing, there's a demand for high-performance materials in existing and future advanced strategic projects and programs, such as nuclear fusion, as we've been hearing about this morning from Amanda. The potential for improvements in productivity, therefore reduced cost, is there, and resource efficiency. But perhaps most importantly, improvements in environmental impact and reduction in the carbon footprint. So all these things lead to economic growth, societal and environmental improvement. Now it's difficult, as I go through some of the background, it's difficult to find specific information regarding the foundation industries. It's only in recent years we've started even using the term foundation industries as a whole. But a report issued by the Enterprise Research Council Centre for UKRI, issued in 2021, which actually in itself relies on a report from 2016, provides some useful insight. In the 2 decades up to 2016, the UK's foundation industries' share of GDP shrunk by 43%, compared to an average decline across the OECD of 21%. In 2016, the foundation industries produced 10% less output than they did in 1990. The UK now has one of the smallest foundation industry sectors relative to GDP in the OECD. This is despite the demand for materials from the foundation industries being strong and growing. However, this demand from key strategic sectors in the UK is increasingly being met by international suppliers. For example, at the end of the 1990s, imports constituted 40% of domestic consumption of basic metals. But by 2016, that figure was 90%. That number sink in for a little while. Using one industry that I'm familiar with as an indicator to show a more up-to-date picture, bringing it beyond 2015, the balance of trade for steel in the UK since 2015 has worsened, despite a fairly constant, if not growing demand, particularly from the construction sector. The situation is unsustainable, and as demonstrated, particularly over the past 2 years, horribly insecure. However, regardless of this relative poor position, even in its current state, the foundation industries are still important to the UK economy. The foundation industries, which nominally is metals, ceramics, glass, chemicals, paper and cement, produce 28 million tonnes of materials per year in the UK. There are 7,000 businesses directly employing over 250,000 people, and that number can be more than doubled when you take account of the impact on the supply and support infrastructure. They generate a combined turnover of around about £68 billion, with an estimated value add to the economy of £52 billion. And in addition to this, the foundation industries also represent a significant opportunity to reduce the UK's carbon footprint. The foundation industries are by far the UK's biggest industrial polluters, accounting for typically 10% of the total CO2 emitted by UK homes and businesses. That's around about 50 million tonnes a year. If we are to meet our commitments to the Paris Climate Change Agreement to reduce CO2 emissions by 80% compared to 1990 by 2050, a transformational change is needed by these industries in how materials are sourced and processed and in the types of materials and products manufactured. The information on the chart is actually from one of the Foundation Industry Challenge projects, Transfire. Those of you who are sat with calculators trying to work out whether that equates to 10%, it doesn't. 10% is a typical year, just to save you the time. To simply put, there needs to be more investment in foundation industries and their capacity to support growth and security of the UK's economy. And at the same time, there's an urgent need to reduce the carbon footprint. Clearly, any capacity created must be cost efficient to ensure that we're competitive. And the good news is that the need for competitive capacity and reduced carbon footprint can go hand in hand. Again, I'll use steel as an example to illustrate. A changing technology from blast furnace-based steelmaking to electric arc furnace-based steelmaking can reduce the carbon footprint by as much as 80%. That would equate to circa 10 million tonnes, a reduction in CO2 generation. At the same time, there's a significant reduction in process equipment required, so that therefore the amount of capital you need to spend. And also there's a reduction in maintenance costs. So assuming a competitive cost of electricity, which is a big assumption in the UK, but could be achieved through policy change, then the overall operational costs can reduce by at least 10%, enabling UK steel to be more competitive. Of course, it's not as simple as that. Such changes require a number of technical challenges to be addressed, and a phased approach is probably best adopted. It also requires significant investment, which brings us back to the question of why aren't existing stakeholders investing, and why is there an absence of new entries, new people wanting to invest in foundation industries in the UK? The potential reasons are many. Political, yes. Overseas ownership of UK assets, where global companies have competing demands for capital. Actual and perceived investment risks, both technical and social, and of course just the sheer scale of the required investment to make the shift from one technology to another. Whatever the reasons, the fundamental requirement for all investors, whether they be public or private, is to make sure you've got a strong and low-risk business case, and to establish the strength of the case and to minimise risk, particularly technical risk. Then greater investment is required on innovation and technical solutions, which is where the recent and current government focus has been, essentially to underpin those investment cases. So the foundation industries are currently being funded to the tune of £250 million over 5 years, with the government contributing 118 million and the balance 130 million coming from industry. The Foundation Industries Challenge is a 66 million industrial strategy fund managed by UKRI, which contributes, along with other pots of government funds, to a programme that aims to transform the UK foundation industries to deliver what I've been talking about so far, but make them internationally competitive as well, secure more jobs throughout the UK, and grow the sector responsibly to meet future demand. The overall landscape is shown on this slide, and this is something that I've struggled with, as some of you might have as well, is to see how all these individual programmes fit together, and this is sort of the best I came up with, but it was provided for me by UKRI, which is encouraging. So Glass Futures, if I look at the Invest box, the glass facility, Glass Futures, that's a 57 million open access facility. This will scale up and commercialise sustainable glass manufacture. Prism is a 16 million research programme run by the Materials Processing Institute, support the improvement and competitiveness of the UK steel and metal sector by providing research and innovation services in the areas of CO2 reduction, digital processing and the circular economy. The CR&D block there refers to a series of industry-led collaborative research and development competitions. These are focused on cross-sector working, skills, knowledge transfer and adoption, with the aim of transforming the way the sector thinks. The investor partnerships of 22 million aims to leverage private equity funding to provide capital for fast-growing small and medium-sized enterprises. The Involve block, second to the last there, refers to Innovate's knowledge transfer networks and Networks Plus, which some of you might be familiar with. Both programs are coordinating and developing a network across the foundation industries that will remove common barriers to innovation and adoption. I'm going to talk about four more of these items, two of which relate to the important people aspects. As David said in his introduction, there's a long history of the foundation industries. And the cultures developed have a number of challenges as a result of that. Some of them real, some of them perceived, and they relate to image, diversity, skills, and succession and knowledge transfer. A future leaders group has been established under the Foundation Industries initiatives to help UKRI challenge team engage deeper into the foundation industry sectors and provide active feedback around initiatives and support programs. So the group is aiming to challenge and hopefully change the status quo, transform perceptions of the foundation industry, drive equality, diversity and inclusion, increase the pipeline for future talent and industries, and bring industries closer together into a strong, influential, cohesive sector. A team led by Sue Black from Durham University is seeking to address equality, diversity and inclusion. They've reviewed best practice and carried out a number of site visits before producing a set of guidelines or a playbook for the foundation industries. This is fundamentally aimed at making sure the industry can develop and take advantage of a diverse, sustainable and highly skilled workforce. The EDI initiative is run under the Transfire programme, which I would also like to highlight, as this is the element of the challenge that aims to establish interdisciplinary research and practice hub that brings together industry and academia. The programme is led by Mark Jolly from Cranfield University and involves 12 research organisations, 90 companies, and has funding of around about 5 million. The programme encompasses 6 technical work streams for each of the foundation industries that seeks to identify key technical challenges and implement case studies to address those challenges. There are also, importantly, 3 cross-sector work streams, the first of which compares common processes across the sectors and explores opportunities for transferring best practice. The second is concerned with identifying wastes and potential uses for those wastes, developing new products and processes. And the third work stream is looking at how communities can benefit from the co-location of industries. All the Foundation Industry Challenge projects and programs that I've talked about thus far are important steps in supporting innovation and the development of investment cases for the foundation industries. However, they have a finite life, and continuity as well as scaling up, as we've heard this morning, are very important next steps. The creation of the Foundation Industry Sustainability Consortium aims to establish more permanent support that will hopefully lead to that investment and growth that we need. The consortium consists of 5 partners, of which Henry Royce Institute is a member, and its objectives are to scale and accelerate the innovation needed to drive the transformation of the foundation industries. Each partner has a track record of supporting collaboration within the foundation industries, examples of which are shown on the slide. But the first and probably the most important project that FISC is undertaking is Economiser. So Economiser is a 20 million investment by UKRI and is really a logical next step to facilitate a sustainable support environment that continues after the challenge. To do this, it will establish and upgrade a network of scale-up facilities, increasing industry engagement, deliver cross-centre working and address workforce development, and crucially, most crucially, develop the business case for a support network beyond 2024. Over the coming months, a series of projects will be identified across the following 5 themes. So that's sustainable material development, process optimization, digital control and sensors, circular economy, feedstock, recycling and reuse, and alternative fuels. So, talked a lot about what's happening in the collaboration space at the moment and the government-funded initiatives to enhance and improve and encourage innovation. But what next is the big question. For these innovations, for these changes, for these programs to actually implement and effect massive change, then what next is really, really important. It's important that over the coming months, first of all, that we finish off the challenge projects effectively, and that FISC and Economiser start to provide a clear line of sight for the continuing support of the foundation industries. However, the real value of these initiatives described only comes when they feed into existing or proposed publicly funded programs, such as infrastructure projects, renewable energy schemes, and strategically important programs to the UK. But also they need to underpin the business case to attract new and additional stakeholder investment. The UK has a lot of catching up to do, and it desperately needs a well-funded, proactive industrial strategy, a critical element of which has to be a material strategy. The steps I've described are clearly worthwhile and essential, but overall progress is slow and hampered by political and private sector indecision and inertia. By way of comparison, last year the German government announced that it will spend 5 billion euros on climate-friendly restructuring of the German steel industry between 2022 last year and next year, 2024. The German economy minister estimated that the total investment required for conversion to a CO2-free steel production would be 35 billion euros, and that the government would spend 10 to 12 billion of public funds over the next 30 years. The French government have earmarked 5.5 billion euros to help the steel, aluminium, chemical and cement sectors, foundation industries, to decarbonise. In 2022, ArcelorMittal announced the investment of 1.7 billion euros to reduce its carbon emissions in France with support from the French government. That compares to what some of you may have seen as the recently rumoured offer of 500 million to help Tata decarbonise in Port Talbot. Since becoming involved in the wider foundation industries challenge and working with the Materials Processing Institute, I have seen amazing progress being made. You see fantastic people, motivated, talented, capable, a support community for the foundation industries, many of which we've seen examples of today. The direction we must travel in is clear. A lot of the foundation work is being done, pardon the pun. But collectively, the UK needs to put its foot down and build on what is world-leading research and innovation capability. Thank you.
There's one question that's come in. I'm not quite sure I understand it, but I think I do. But so whoever asked it,
maybe chance.
It sort of says the need to decarbonise the sector is clear,
yeah.
Right? Well, I think you've made that case very clearly. However, this is going to lead to increasing costs in the short term. Maybe the case, I guess, but probably not. But it says, what's the real key to decreasing the reliability from imports? I guess I don't know who asked the question, but I guess it's really trying to say, well, do you think that? What's really going to help reducing that sort of reliability, I guess, and security of supply in some ways?
Yeah. So two things. I mean, the first point about increase in initial transformation costs, that's right. There is a lot of capital is required, as I've sort of indicated. But other companies are doing it, other governments are investing in it, they're recognising the need to do it to support the foundation industries. However, I think the business case does exist, and I know from looking at specific examples around steel, which I can talk to more knowledgeably, is that actually that investment in that change of technology requires as much capital as it is to renew and maintain existing infrastructure. So if you're going to maintain the facility, the cost is neutral, if not advantageous. And then the operating costs as a result of making that change can be reduced significantly. So I think the business case is there, and therefore that ultimate cost, if you like, that life cycle cost for the process can be reduced by changing the technology. In terms of reducing imports, again, I'll quote steel because I know more about it, but certainly if you look at the changing technology, if you can put so the USA have had mini mills in place for many years, since the early 80s, which is essentially a one process, scrap to finished product process, very low cost, has technical disadvantages. Before people jump all over that, I understand that. But it gives you the opportunity, if you have a competitive energy cost in the UK, which is one big part of the answer to the question, if you've got a competitive energy cost, if we currently pay twice as much for electricity in the UK than the German industry pays or the French industry pays. If we can, and that's around about policy costs essentially. If you can get a competitive energy cost and you can put the new technology in place, you can absolutely displace on a competitive basis imports into the UK. So there is a business case for that as well, is my view.